Hey everyone, what's up? It's Allie, it's me. Hi, sorry. I'm very excited today because this video I've been working on since December. It's taken me too long. So we're just gonna get straight into it. I decided that I wanted to read what the best fantasy books were according to the Goodreads Choice Awards. So the initial round for Goodreads I think opened sometime in November, December, I don't remember. It feels like ages ago. And so we got 20 nominees essentially. And those 20 books were The Atlas 6 by Olivie Blake, When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Bairnhill, The Book Eaters by Sunyi, Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Lynn, Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree, Elektra by Jennifer Saint, Fairy Tale by Stephen King, War of Two Queens by Jennifer L. Armentrout, Kaikei by Vashani Patel, The Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson, Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross, Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro, The Golden Enclaves by Naomi Novik, The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah, The World We Make by N.K. Jemisin, The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangyu Mandana, Thistlefoot by Jenna Rose Nethercott, I think, Babel by R.F. Kuang, and House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. So out of the 20 of these books, during 2022, I had already read 5. So the books that I already read were The Atlas 6, House of Sky and Breath, Legends and Lattes, Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. And I will talk more about those at the end of this video, but I enjoyed, I think, most of them. Again, I'll talk about them later. So now we know, we've been around the Goodreads train a while. Okay, so we know that a lot of the times the books that are nominated or that win are not necessarily the best average rated book. It's really dependent, I think, on audience and the shelving, the shelf system in Goodreads. I don't know, you can look it up yourself. I'm just here for the vibes. But I knew I wanted to go into this vlog knowing how each book was ranked in terms of the number or amount of ratings, because again, audience is quite important when thinking about who is nominated and who will eventually win. So let's just go over the rankings essentially of the ratings, right? So obviously coming up number 1 is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas with 160,564 ratings. Then we have The Atlas 6 with 86,339. War of Two Queens with 78. Fairy Tale with 47,709. Daughter of the Moon Goddess with 29,000. There's a huge jump between Fairy Tale and Daughter of the Moon Goddess. We have Babel with 22,725, Legends and Lattes with 20,590, The Golden Enclaves with 19,000, The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches with 18,749, Nettle and Bone with 16,500 and something, A River Enchanted with 13,000, sorry I'm just looking off screen, Kaikei with 12,000, Elektra again with 12,200, When Women Were Dragons was 10,427, The Book Eaters we have 9,422, The Stardust Thief 9,330, Ordinary Monsters is 5,000, then we have Thistlefoot and The Lost Metal both with in the 2000s, and then The World We Make with 742. Now mind you, this number of ratings I got last year, so they're most likely different now, but I wanted to get the ratings at the time when the Goodreads went live, and that's what the ratings are, okay? But I also knew going in that God, I knew that I was not going to be able to read War of Two Queens and The Lost Metal. I just didn't have time to catch up on the series in order to read those 2 books. So I knew I wanted, because of that, I wanted to read at least 10 to 12 books. 12 because I knew I was going to read two of the books that would most likely be in the top 10. So I knew then that I needed to read at least these 5 books, which was Fairy Tale, Babel, The Golden Enclaves, Nettle and Bone, and Elektra. I knew I needed to read those. Nettle and Bone mostly because I wanted to read it, but the rest I knew there was a really high chance for them to be in the top 10 alongside Hosab, Daughter of the Moon Goddess, The Atlas Six, War of Two Queens, Legends and Lattes, and The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. So in this vlog, what I ended up actually reading in this vlog: Women with Dragons by Kelly Bairnhill, The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah, Elektra by Jennifer Saint, The Golden Enclaves and The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik, Fairy Tale by Stephen King, Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, and Babel by R.F. Kuang. There was a few books, namely 3, or 2 actually, that I wanted to read that were kind of on the back burner if I had time, and that was Kaikei and A River Enchanted, but I literally had no time. I wanted to get this up sooner rather than later, so I didn't end up reading those 2. But I ended up reading 12, and you're gonna see the wild ride that this was. So I hope you enjoy. It is a long one. Thank you so much for sticking around. Let's get it. I think the first book that I begin this challenge with is The Stardust Thief. And I understand there might be a lot of you who think, why would you read The Stardust Thief? In terms of the possibility of it being in the top 10 was very low. But there are some books that I read purely because I knew that these books had over 20,000 ratings, which are these ones. And then there were books that I wanted to read because I knew that there was a lot of like bookish chatter online, which were these ones. And then the books that I then added on were mainly ones that I could easily like access to through the library, or were books on my physical TBR. So The Stardust Thief, the first book in this vlog, is one that was just sitting on my shelf, and I thought, why not? So enjoy, and I'll see you soon. Hi. I have been really terrible at vlogging because I don't really do it. I apologize for my hair. It literally looks like shit. Anyway, I've got a few updates, mainly 2 updates. If you hear breathing and weird noises in the background, it's my dog. Anyway, I actually finished reading The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. I enjoyed this. I think it definitely has an audience. Honestly, I really need to find out how this is marketed. My dog is playing with my computer cords. Anyway, I really want to know how this is marketed, because I don't know if I don't think it's young adult, and I don't know what exactly makes this book feel a bit more younger than an adult novel. There was just a quality to it that I just assumed it was for younger readers, and then I found out that it technically wasn't. Like, I got this in the adult Fairy Loot book box, so maybe it's kind of a trilogy where it becomes more adult, if that makes sense. I'm not making sense. I don't think I'm making sense. This is really hard to like talk about my feelings about books. Anyway, overall, I did really enjoy this. If you don't know what this book is about, we follow a young woman. I think she's in like her late teens, possibly, maybe early 20s. She feels more late teens. Her name is Layla or Luli. She is known as the Midnight Merchant, and in this world, magic is known, but magic is usually connected to jinn. So jinn, we all know jinn. I love books about jinn. I think they're fucking amazing. And essentially jinn have been kind of outlawed, they're forbidden, they're hunted, they are kind of made as monsters, as these demonic figures, but there are relics that still are imbued with jinn magic that like people want. And as the midnight merchant, she finds them and sells them. She is like, Luli is a badass character. She has so much potential. That's also like another issue that I will talk about. But yeah, like everything jinn bad. And so you have these desert landscapes, and I do have to say, the setting and the descriptions of the places that you go to, they're just so cool. They're really cool. I freaking love desert settings. I think for me, it's something about the sand dunes. Like it's so eerie and unsettling, but also so beautiful. It's that like balance, like this tension between beauty and like violence, because it's so spontaneous. You could be stuck in a snowstorm. Oh my god, in a sandstorm. It's just really, I really love that sort of setting. But you have these like desert landscapes. However, there are like these oases, essentially these beautiful gardens. And so like the Sultan's palace, for instance, has like surrounded by like beautiful gardens, and a lot of the kind of noble families have these sort of gardens. How do you get gardens in a desert landscape? According to like this world, life, which is like plants, flowers, only happens when jinn blood is spilled. So again, it's this duality that I was talking about with like the desert, violence and beauty. Again, you kind of see this theme come up often. You have these beautiful gardens, but it's with the knowledge that these gardens are only created through absolute slaughter of jinn. And you may wonder, why are jinn like the monsters? Like what's going on there? We don't really get, that's my dog, he's snoring. We don't really get that answered in this one, which I kind of think was a good plan. The jinn aspect is what is going to make you want to read more. Like, I'm sorry to say, the best character in this book was not even one that we get a perspective from. So this book is told from 3 perspectives. Luli, Mazen, who is a prince, one of the Sultan's sons, and Aisha. Kadir is a jinn, and he is essentially Luli's bodyguard, but like family. Like she views him as a brother. It's really, really beautiful. Kadir is it's my accent. Kadir is the boss bitch. Like, he is the main character, and his story, the mystery surrounding his story, is the reason why you want to continue reading. Like, that's legitimately the reason why. I loved his character. I wanted to know more about his character. I was like, bitch, where is he? Where is Kadir? I want him. I loved him. He's my little precious jinn. Anyway, not BTS jinn, magical jinn. I thought he was just a fantastic character. That gets me to my next kind of point. I'm just gonna say it. Luli as a main character really didn't do it for me. But she is self-aware. So we can at least say that Luli is self-aware. For most of the book, I'm just like, babe, what's your point? Like, what's the point of you? Like, how do you forward the story? It felt like a lot of the time she, like, her internal monologue and like herself was like, I'm a badass bitch. I'm like, yes, queen, you are. But her thoughts and her actions didn't really match. So, you know, she's like this mysterious midnight merchant who don't need no man. But then the minute she kind of gets in trouble, she literally doesn't do anything. Kadir saves her. Like, most of the time, if it's not Kadir, it's another man character, whether an ally or not. Or if she's not saved by another person, the other person kind of helps her along, and then she just kind of like finishes stabbing off. Like, it's a very weird dynamic, and I was just so constantly frustrated by her because she doesn't really do anything. and I was like, is she supposed to be the main character of this story? And I do think that she's going to grow, and towards the end she became super self-aware, and that became kind of like an issue of conflict for her, where she was like, I don't do anything, I'm constantly being saved. And I'm like, yeah, you are. Mason's character, I don't know how I feel about him. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how I feel about him. It just kind of stumbles, and like, whoopsie daisies, I fell, and you know, suddenly we're in this like Queen of the Dunes djinn who wants to seek revenge, and whoopsies. Like, I was like, okay, Mason, what are you doing? But he did grow on me. He is a character that does grow on you. But I think for me, if you can't tell, it was just a book that was okay. It was fine. It was solid. And now we're gonna actually talk about the next book that I finished. Spoiler alert, I loved it. Let me just fix you up. This next book that I read, are you joking? Oh my god, I've never read from this author before. I have to fix that. I've got so much energy today. I'm usually not like this. Nettle and Bone by Kingfisher. Besties, read this. If you have similar reading tastes to me, and I know for most of us this is the first time we're meeting. Hey, how you going? I'm Allie. If this is the first time we're meeting, you most likely have no idea like what my reading taste is. I do have a blog. You're more than welcome to check out my blog and my Instagram. How do I even describe this book? Sorry, I'm using my computer as a lot. How do I even describe this book? This is so great. Oh, actually no, it's more than great, y'all. It's stunning. It's stunning. What the fuck was that? Embarrassing. This is a story about a woman named Mara. She is the youngest daughter, princess to a harbour kingdom, and it's a very small kingdom in between two kingdoms, the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom. Yes, I know, very complicated names. They're essentially rivals and been wanting the Harbour Kingdom, because with the Harbour Kingdom comes access to the harbour, which is really super important for trade. And so the mother, the queen, has figured out a possible way to ensure the security and safety of her citizens, of the kingdom, essentially, by marrying off her eldest daughter. Now, the eldest daughter, we don't really know much. We don't really spend time with the eldest daughter. To be honest, it's really Mara's story. I think the eldest daughter's name was Demia, something along those lines. I apologize if it's wrong. So she goes to the Northern Kingdom to marry the prince. She doesn't survive. She dies. Supposedly it's an accident. Mara's like, something smells fishy, and it ain't the harbour. Like, something's not right here, but no one's talking about it because they can't really talk about it, because the Northern Kingdom is like, well, she died, but you still have, like, you have another daughter. Can I just marry the second daughter? So then Mara's other sister, the middle sister, essentially gets like sacrificed and has to go marry this prince who may or may not have killed her elder sister. Mara is like, I'm terrified. I'm terrified. But her and her sister, the sister's name escapes me. I'm pretty sure it starts with K. Kania. Kania she reminds me of a character, but I don't know. Does she remind me a little bit of Nesta from Akata? I don't know. I never liked Nesta, but I do like Kania. She's quite unlikable, and Mara's always assumed that Kania just doesn't like her, so she stays away from Kania. They don't really bond or anything, but then Kania just gets sent away to go marry this prince. Essentially everyone's waiting for Kania to get pregnant, and that's what both kingdoms are waiting for is for Kinnear to get pregnant to ensure the monarchy, to ensure the kingdom is maintained and that their prince has an heir. That's what I'm trying to say. So whilst this is happening, the prince essentially says to Mara's mother, the queen of the Harbour Kingdom, you need to put your daughter in a convent because I don't want her getting pregnant and that becoming an issue for like me and the possibility of my heir being kind of the firstborn and being able to run the kingdoms. I don't know, I don't understand the royalty, okay? And so Mara is sent to a convent. This is the best thing to ever happen to Mara. This is really where the story starts, and you see Mara just becoming herself. And I love Mara so much. I love Mara so much. Things happen and Mara realizes that her sister is in possible danger, like is in actual danger, but even more danger if she actually gives birth to this child and this child lives, because then Kinnear is essentially like not needed anymore if she gives birth to a boy. And there's issues of domestic violence, so trigger warnings for that. And Mara's like, I gotta do something. Oh, I know, I'm gonna go kill a prince. So it's essentially it's like a fairy tale. It's a subversion of a fairy tale. It's gothic, atmospheric, it is violent and brutal, but also quite hilarious. And the found family in this is brilliant. It's a subversion of quite a lot of like fairy tale-esque things. For instance, we have a take on, you know, the evil godmother, and I loved. We have these like different versions of witches, and we have, you know, the goblin market. And I wouldn't say it's not a coming of age, but there is such a huge character development with Mara. Mara is one of my favorite characters, and I understand why this was blurred by Shauna Maguire, because it does give off a vibe similar to the children's, like the Wayward Children series. It's honestly quite magnificent. I read this so quickly. I have been screaming about it to everyone. I want everyone to read this. It's so beautiful. It's so beautifully written. It kind of commentates on so much. It's about kind of women and about oppression and being silenced and, you know, women's rage. And it's just so good. And I gave this 5 stars. Like this really surprised me. This has been on my want to read list for so long, and I'm so happy that I read it. It does feel quite like gothic-esque, and there is a slight romance in this, and it was just so adorable. There are 2 characters, the dust wife, or grave witch. There's there's a demon possessed hen in this book. Like, I'm sorry, there are ghosts, there's like a labyrinthine type tomb under a palace. Like, it literally has everything you could ever want in a novel, and I highly recommend this book. I want to read everything by T. Kingfisher. Do you have any recommendations on where to start? Like, I know she writes mostly, does she write mostly horror? I don't know. Like, I love her. This is fantastic. And that's all in terms of the books that I finished. What I'm currently reading, I decided to pick up When Women Were Dragons. I apologize, this clip is so long, but I've decided to pick up When Women Were Dragons by bairnhill. I'm not really that far into it, so I'll keep you updated. I'm gonna go and do some work now. Hey friends, so I've been like really terrible with like this whole vlogging thing, because I feel like I have to do this in secret. Anyway, I am gonna quickly talk about some stuff. I've been really bad with reading the past few weeks, I'm not gonna lie. I have been so like tired at night. Don't ask me why. It's not like I have a very vigorous job, but I've just, at night, all I want to do is like watch Criminal Minds or YouTube. to like conk out. Like, I've been literally falling asleep at 8:30. No idea what the fuck's going on. But I am going to talk about the book that I am reading. The book that I've been reading for what feels like months, but it's actually only been like over a week, is this book, When Women Were Dragons by Bairnhill. So this is on obviously the list. I don't know the likelihood of it being in the final round, but this has been on my want to read for so long, like since it came out, that I just wanted to read it anyway. The fact that it's taking me so long to get through this is not because I'm not enjoying it. This is actually brilliant. When I'm reading it, I'm having an incredible time. It is a book that, for me, I'm having such a visceral reaction to. It makes me feel angry, incredible, like the rage that I feel. It makes me sad. I laugh. It's just a book that really engages you with your entire being. So what is this book about? So When Women Were Dragons is essentially what it says on the tin. It's such a fascinating premise. So this is like an urban fantasy, but it's set in the 1950s. So this entire book is like a commentary on the position of women and the oppression and silence of women, not only in like the time in which we're talking about, but also just like throughout history, like the silence of women in the historical narrative of them being pushed to the side. And so we have this reality where women turn into dragons, and it's this metaphor of like the female rage. So you don't like, it's not necessarily explained why women can turn into dragons. I think there's some sort of like genetic predisposition. Too sure if I mentioned this later on, but whilst it's in my head, I was gonna say it. So When Women Were Dragons, it does actually explain that it's not technically a genetic thing. I'm not explaining this right. There is a difference. The author makes sure to explicitly say that it doesn't depend on like what sex you were born as. So if you identify as a woman, so she's talking about like gender identity, if you identify as a woman, then you are predisposed to turn into a dragon. So there's not a biological like hindrance. It's not like that. Yeah, because if she was to kind of base her entire like magic system on such essentialism, then that would be a huge issue. But I forget to mention it. I think in my clip when I talk about this. So just wanted to let you know, the author is not proclaiming biological essentialism. She's actually saying the identity that you choose, like that you identify as, you can also turn into a dragon. Doesn't matter what you were born as. It's your gender identity. Okay, that's a very convoluted way to say that this book was really good. If I could turn into a fucking dragon, that'd be so epic. I love dragons. Everything about dragons I love. So our main character, Alex, who's obviously incredible, it must be the name, she grows up, like you're essentially like with her as she grows up, and with her as she just like realizes that there are certain things that you're not supposed to talk about because they're perceived by men as being like too feminine, that it's disgusting. So that is essentially the kind of perception surrounding dragoning, which is the process of women turning into dragons. Most of the time, the women who turn into dragons are women who are mothers or wives. I wonder why. And Alex doesn't really know anything different. She just knows that we don't talk about it. The fact that your neighbor down the street turned into a dragon and you saw it, you don't talk about it. The fact that your auntie like your aunt turned into a dragon, killed her husband and left, we don't talk about it. Like there are things that we don't talk about because we're not allowed to talk about them, and it's so cool. It's just so cool. And so you have Alex growing up in this society where you don't talk about the dragons, you don't talk about the fact that, you know, your mum could turn into a dragon and leave. Like we don't talk about dragons. It's like we don't talk about Bruno, we don't talk about dragons. But shit happens that I won't say because it'll be a spoiler, and you feel such immense rage and you feel it alongside Alex herself. So she's kind of tried to come to grips with the fact of her position, of her life, of how things have happened, and also with her perception of like her reality changing. And it's interspersed, this story of Alex, so from her perspective. It's told in first person from Alex's perspective, but it's interspersed with these excerpts from like a PhD thesis called like a brief history of dragons or dragoning or something, which is so interesting because you get a bit of the historical context. Yeah, Brief History of Dragons by Professor H.N. Gantz. So with these excerpts you do get a bit of the historical context of like, no, like mass dragoning is not a new thing. Just dragoning as a concept is not a new thing. It's actually been recorded in our history. It's just that a lot of history was written by men and analysed and interpreted by men. So there are certain things that they didn't really think about. And so Professor Gantz, he has kind of made it his life's mission to talk about dragoning and to talk about kind of like women. And you have excerpts of his PhD. Then you also have excerpts of this, I don't know, like a congressional hearing. Is that something that happens in America? Oh, I should say this takes place in America, in the US. Sorry, I think I should have said that. It's in Wisconsin specifically. We also have excerpts of kind of this congressional hearing with Dr. Gantz. And it's because there's this huge kind of governmental like censorship happening surrounding research and just overall talking about dragoning. So it's just really interesting, and it's quite intricate in how it goes about exploring like these sorts of tension and like complexities of like women and womanhood and the kind of inherent patriarchy of society, especially like the concept of like the housewife and the mother. And there was this really great scene, and if you've read Night Bitch by Rachel Yoder, you kind of get what I'm like trying to say. But there's this moment when, is it a spoiler? I feel like this entire vlog is going to be a spoiler, so I'm just going to talk about it. Spoiler, there's this moment after something happens with Alex's mum where she finds out her mum's name, her first name, for the first time. And from Alex it's like, oh wow, like I never knew she had a first name, like she was always just mother. And then kind of like very briefly Alex says, I wonder what else like was taken from her. And it's like this really interesting theme of identity and motherhood and what happens when you become a mother, and is that all you are when you become a mother. So it was very interesting. And Alex is quite an introspective character. She's quite reflective. She does so much for someone who's now a teenager. I don't know, it's so well written. I'm really loving it, and I honestly have no idea where this is going. But the one great like image that I have in my mind that was like literally just mentioned is dragons like having like a handbag. I'm like, yes, as I should. I really would like to know if like dragons have like their own little civilizations, because like where do they all go? They just like take to the sky or to the sea and do what? I want to know what they do. I want to know, like, why would a dragon have a purse? That implies that she's doing shopping. that implies that she needs a purse to like carry her things. For what? Where is she going? I want to know. So I think that's kind of cool. It's honestly incredible and I'm having such a great time reading. I don't know what my next book is going to be. I feel like it's going to be Fairy Tale by Stephen King, because that is definitely going to make the final round. And then it's up in the air. I think after Fairy Tale, I don't actually know what I'm going to read next, and I think it'll mostly be according to what's on the final round. I'm definitely going to be reading Babel and Elektra, even if Elektra isn't on the list, purely because I want to read Elektra so bad. And I will keep you updated with all things book related. Wish me luck. I'm hoping to finish this so soon. It needs to be finished. Do you think I could finish it today after my day? I don't know. We shall see. But yeah, I'll keep you updated. Bye. This is the angle we're working with right now. I come bearing good news. I started another book. I'm going to talk to you about When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Bairnhill a bit more. Everything that I said previously stays the same. I really loved it, gave it 4.5 stars, only because the last third of the book went so quickly. It went so ridiculously quickly that I feel like it could have spent a little bit more time further exploring what Beatrice and Alex kind of went through and their journey, kind of like what happens towards the end. But in a way, I guess the ambiguity of it lends itself to the reader kind of taking it upon themselves to like imagine the bits that come in the middle. I don't know, but I felt like it was a bit rushed. But I did start another book, and this one is the biggest on the Goodreads fantasy list, and it's Fairy Tale by Stephen King. Like 30 pages in. Literally 37 pages in. And I cried. I shed some tears because it's a dog. There's a dog in this book and she is so precious. I would already die for her. If she dies at the end of this book, I can't deal with that. I don't have the best relationship with Stephen King, only because I've only read one book of his, which was Pet Sematary, and I thought it was not great. I didn't like the way he wrote the story. I didn't like the way it was like the horror. Oh god, I can't believe I just did that, but like it wasn't horrific in any way, shape or form for me, because I think maybe because it's been so far into like popular culture's consciousness that even though I never read the book, I already like knew the story. I don't know, but I really hated the way he wrote women in that book, and so I've always just decided to steer clear of Stephen King. But this is actually kind of cool. It's written in first person. The main character, Charlie, you start off with him like being a child, and he's writing like from the future, and he's talking about like, oh, you know, kind of like this, like a vein of like, well, a lot of shit went down, like sit down, let me tell you about it. That's how kind of the tone. And Charlie is a kid and he's going through shit. I really like, even though his father goes through a lot of his own shit, I still enjoy the portrayal of their relationship. I don't know if that will change, but yeah, for 36 pages, I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know if it's going to be worth the like 570, 180 pages. Honestly, what I'm hoping to get out of this is that it's like at least a 4-star. It would be amazing. I'm trying not to have too high of expectations because historically, every time I have high expectations, it doesn't work well for me. But I don't know, I feel like this could be an interesting little, honestly, like I'm enjoying myself, which is saying a lot. I never thought I would enjoy a Stephen King novel. Am I a Stephen King girly now? Oh my god. But I'll keep you updated. Knowing me, you most likely won't be updated until I finish the book, but I'm going to try my hardest. But yeah, I'm going to continue reading this tonight. I don't know where this story is going to go. to be perfectly honest. I don't know where it's going to go, but I know it's portal fantasy, and I love portal fantasy. So here's hoping. Hey everyone, if I look atrocious, it's because I feel atrocious. It's been a really long fucking week, but I wanted to do a quick reading update because I've been reading Fairy Tale by Stephen King. Not gonna lie, this has taken me a lot longer than I anticipated, purely because at night I cannot be fucked reading, doing anything other than watching Criminal Minds. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. However, I'm still enjoying Fairy Tale. I'm still enjoying her. Can we get a round of applause? Even my mum was like, are you sure? My mum also has a very tumultuous history with Stephen King, but unlike me, she's read more than one book. She's read a few. Her and my dad, I think at one stage, tried to get into him, but like, wasn't happening. So mum also has a very, she has a bias when it comes to Stephen King because she just doesn't like his writing. I have to say, I've cried a few times. It's the dog. It's Radar. It is Radar. She is the star of the show. She is the reason why I'm still reading. If she dies, this is getting 2 stars. If she dies, she is getting 2 stars because Radar is the main bitch. She is the queen, the showstopper. She's a legend. I love her so much. We're kind of finally getting into the meat of the story. Not gonna lie, it doesn't need to be 500 pages. It doesn't need to be such a build up for 200 pages just to get into the shed. And I can understand why, not being a bitch, I can understand why, but I just wish we had more time. I don't know, but it feels like the first 200 pages has just been filler, but at the same time it was necessary to craft the relationship between Charlie and Radar and Mr. Bowditch. However, the one qualm that I have at the moment with this book is I love Mr. Bowditch. Spoiler alert, he does die, which is not even a spoiler, it's in the blurb. And so the way that Charlie finds out about, it's called the Well of the Worlds, which is literally a well in Mr. Bowditch's shed that has staircase leading down into like an alternate kind of world. The way that Charlie finds out about that is through these tapes that Mr. Bowditch leaves for him. And so we as the reader kind of read what Charlie is listening to. And I wish that maybe those were not like that, if that was not the way that the story was, like Mr. Bowditch's story was given to us. I don't know, it kind of feels information dumpy in parts, and I haven't read any reviews or any interviews with Stephen King because I would really like to know his decision in why he decided not to do, like, I don't know, have alternate timelines happening, or have like Mr. Bowditch's perspective from way back when, and then Charlie from like the now kind of thing. I'd like to know why he decided just to do these tapes. It feels kind of lazy. I don't know, it just, Mr. Bowditch's story, if you've read this book, Mr. Bowditch's story is so fascinating, and I wish there was just more with it. I wish Stephen King did more with that. I don't know how I feel about it yet, but at the same time, I'm only 200 pages in, so I feel like there is a possibility that there's a reason why for everything that Stephen King has decided to do in this book. And so I just need to keep on reading and shut the fuck up and not question a best-selling author's decisions in his plot points. But yeah, I don't know, just the use of the tapes feels a bit lazy. Like, see all this italicized section, that's all the tape. All the tape. Still more tape. And look, more tape. So it just feels like if that was going to be the case, why not actually do different timelines? Do something. Because from the get-go, we know about Mr. Bowditch. I don't know, that's my mum. Anyway, I'm gonna go have my coffee and I'll keep you updated. I literally look like a cockatoo. Anyway, hi, another update. So I wasn't actually going to update you, like update this vlog on this book because it's technically not on the Goodreads list, but I need to read it in order to read the third book in this series, which is on the Goodreads like final list, shortlist, whatever. But I just thought, why not? The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik. This is book 2 in the Scholar Man series. Book 3 is the Golden Golden Enclaves. Lord in heaven. And the Golden Enclaves is in the final 10, in the final round of the Goodreads fantasy list. I'm 90 pages in, if you can tell by my tone. It's not it. It really isn't. So I read Deadly Education when it came out. I was very excited about it because I read Uprooted by Naomi Novik, fell in love with it, thought the writing was amazing, everything was amazing. Have I read Spinning Silver? I feel like maybe I haven't. Anyway, regardless, I loved Naomi Novik's writing. I read A Deadly Education and I was bamboozled, okay? Because A Deadly Education, the writing, no. The characters, no. The premise though, maybe. It's the premise. That's what gets ya. The amount of times I've heard people say, yeah, like the writing isn't that good, the characters annoy me, but the plot, like the story, I want to know what happens, which is very fair, very valid. I'm having the same issues that I have with A Deadly Education. I don't like Elle, and you know me. I love a complex woman. I love an unlikable woman character. I think they're incredible. Or just like unlikable characters overall. I'm here for it. I support their crimes. But this is not that. She is written like this. I feel like this book is dated. Like this series feels dated because a lot of the tropes that are being used feel like 5 years ago. Like that's a thing that 5 years ago we were eating up. But right now it just feels like every single young adult fantasy. The main character Elle is not like other girls. She's different. Why is the Scholar Man School out after her? Well, because I'm special. Like it's just, it's boring. And her like internal monologue and like, because it's first person, so we're literally only with her. And she's just such a boring character to be in her perspective. I feel like I'm being really bitchy, but I am feeling that way. She's just annoying and frustrating. Have I talked about what this book is about? Whoopsies. 1 second, let me continue ranting. So the problem that I'm finding with Elle's perspective is obviously there needs to be a bit more detail and like exploration of the world and the different rules of the world and the different rules of the school and etc, which is fine. I love that. But the way it's done is just Elle like speaking, right, to herself in such detail, right? Of like, yeah, so the reason why this works is because the school is technically not really existing. It's existing in a way, but the only way that it is existing is because the people in the school believe that it exists, therefore. And she just kind of goes on and on about information that we need to be privy to. But it feels info dumpy. It feels a lot like Crescent City book 1, which is right there, House of Blood and Earth and Blood, or whatever. It feels like that, where it's just like, this is information you need to know. Here's the information, but I'm not going to do it in a way that feels organic or authentic to the story. It actually is going to feel like I am throwing information at you through a really dull character. You're welcome. Like that's how it feels. And I'm so bored. So I'm gonna try and get to at least 50%. Like honestly, I could easily finish this. What I have to say is that they're very easily readable. You don't even realize how much you've read until you stop and you're like, oh fuck, I've read 90 pages, which is really good, which is a testament to something. Don't know what that something is just yet. But it's a pro, and we're counting those because we need to. I don't know why I'm so like, but I am. But it takes place, they're back at school, at the Scholar Mance, And the Scholomance is a boarding school for children with magic. So think Hogwarts, because that is literally what it is. But the Scholomance school is a bit different because, again, not like other girlies. This school has no teachers. The school itself is kind of sentient in a way, and it essentially organizes the curriculum for each student. I don't think it's by itself. I think there are people, but like teachers or professors, but we don't see them. Anyway, so this school is a boarding school for magical children because it's for the safety of these kids, because out in the real world there are these entities called mals. I'm just gonna call them mals. They're essentially these monstrous beings. The descriptions of the mals are actually really good. They're really creepy. But so that these mals hunt magic because they feed off it. And so it happens so often out in the real world that essentially like the governing bodies of magic, which are like these enclaves, came together, I think, and said, you know what, we most likely need to do something to protect our kids, because without like the next generation, we will all, you know, die out. So the Scholomance was created. But in a really strange turn of events, the Scholomance, in trying to provide a safe haven for these magical kids, is just a beacon to these mals. And it's become such an ingrained aspect of the schooling experience that you have to essentially like not only study and go to school and like survive that, but survive the risk of death every day, because these mals just like come through the school and try and kill off these kids, and people are killed, and it's just normal. An entire society of like wizards, they can't deal with this like one thing. Anyway, so going into Scholomance is like this huge ordeal. So you have to like learn how to make allies and be cutthroat because you're out for your survival. And the way that graduation happens at the end of, I think it's every year, or no, at the end of like your graduating senior year, like when you leave the Scholomance, the school, is you're essentially put in a hall that's filled to the brim with mals that's been like building up over the course of however long, like every year, I guess, because the seniors are graduating every year. And they're like, and you just have to like survive that and like get through the doors to like, you know, graduate. And I think that it is the most ridiculous plotline ever. Like, I really don't understand it, and I think maybe because I'm missing something. I feel like I'm missing something, and I felt like that with A Deadly Education. I'm missing something because this is just the most illogical thing to ever happen. Like, I'm all for pushing logic away when reading fantasy. Like, it's fine. Like, that's why I love fantasy. It's just like, it's fun and different and interesting to read about all these different worlds and the rules of this world. But this doesn't make sense. Tell me how it makes sense. And so you're telling me all these big wizards who have all this magic, mana, whatever it's fucking called, they can't do something? I don't know, create wards? Maybe make the Scholomance like a real physical structure school, like in somewhere and not in the void? Make it an actual school, like an estate, put wards up, have actual teachers to protect these fucking kids? Like, I don't get it. And so that's the context. And so Allie's back, and I was like, something's a bit weird, because of course it is, because there's a whole prophecy about Elle from her great-grandmother or great-great-grandmother about how she's gonna essentially like destroy the like system, the enclaves, which is like the governing system of the wizarding world, which honestly is like really the only plotline that I'm actually really interested in, because I like where that part is going, where Allie's like, hang on, like we need to make everything more equitable and more equal. Like, it shouldn't matter if like your family has been in an enclave for generations, and because of like wealth, not only like financially, but of magic as well, and knowledge that should be given across the board. And I really like that aspect, I have to admit. But everything else, what the fuck. But Elle comes back, she gets her schedule, and she's very confused at the schedule because the schedule is very intense. She's like, what the hell? And she's been placed with freshmen for like homeroom or something, and she's very confused as to why that is, because typically freshmen and seniors don't really mix. And then everywhere she goes now, she's just like constantly bombarded with mals. So she's using up her mana, which is the like magical energy and the energy that you use in order to make spells. And she's using so much of this mana because she's trying to not only protect herself but protect the freshmen. Am I using that word correctly? Is it freshmen? The first years. Is it freshman? I'm Australian, I don't know. So they're basically she's basically doing that. But everyone else has been saying like, oh my god, like why has it been so quiet? Like there's been like no mouths. And Allie's out here going, I'm every day. Like literally every day. So there's that. I know my vlog clip before cut off quite quickly. But I just wanted to also say one more thing about The Last Graduate. Who is she talking to? She refers to you like as if she's talking to us, the reader. But who is she talking to? In her mind, is she talking to us in her mind? Like, is she hearing voices? Like, I don't understand. Is she writing this from the future? What's going on? She literally says, if you're wondering how our marks get assigned when there are no teachers to evaluate anything, I've heard a million explanations. Who are you talking to, Al? I'm not liking this book. But I'm hoping maybe it gets better. Honestly, I really do. Because I am interested in that aspect of what she like would like to do in the future. So we'll see. The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik. I've already ranted about this. I do have to say Naomi Novik did surprise me. The last 50 pages of this was actually really enjoyable. And I was like, yes. But I had to go through so much in order to get those 50 pages. I don't like this book. That's my dog barking in the background. I apologize. I don't like this book. We all know I don't like it. But the last 50 pages got me. And I'm actually now excited about the third book, which I wasn't expecting. I was fully expecting to like hate read it. But now I'm kind of excited about it. Not gonna lie, because of the way it ended. So I'm hoping that because we're hopefully gonna leave the school, I'll feel a bit more invested. But I did like the touch of the school scholomance kind of becoming a bit sentient a little bit more and becoming more of an actual character in like the last, I think it was more like the last 100 pages for that, but I enjoyed that. But I don't like the writing in this. I'm not going to go on and on about it because I've already gone on and on about it, but the writing in this series is not good. I don't like it. I just, the rhythm to it I don't enjoy. There's just like pages and pages of the main character Al like explaining things to you, but it would just be supposedly be part of like the same conversation that she's having with the character, and it's just, it feels at times the lazy way of like world building and providing contextual information. I really don't like the writing in this. I'm not going to read the Golden Enclaves next because I need a break, so I'm going to read something else and then read Golden Enclaves, I think. I'll get back to you anyway. I finished Elektra by Jennifer Saint. I actually finished this a few days ago. Yeah, like literally 4 days ago. I forgot to update you. I loved this. I gave this 5 stars. Jennifer Saint can do no wrong. Also, if you hear a weird noise, that's a tree rubbing against the fence. So I actually have my reading journal here with me because I took some notes. I've been trying to be a bit more intentional with my reading this year. So similar to Ariadne, Elektra focuses on more than just the titular character. So in Elektra we have Elektra, obviously. We have Cassandra, and we have Clytemnestra, which I always struggle to say her name. I am Greek. Anyway, these 3 women. So Elektra is the daughter of Clytemnestra, who is the wife of Agamemnon, and Cassandra is the daughter, the princess of Priam, who is the king of Troy. So we have essentially 2 sides being portrayed in this story, this book. I immediately pre-ordered Atalanta, which is Jennifer Saint's next novel, after I finished reading this. This was so fantastic. Okay, so we are essentially following along these 3 women. It's to kind of show from the women's perspective the Trojan War. It's bringing to voice the experiences of these women, because majority of the time the women in these stories do not get a chance to really share their side of things. So it is a feminist retelling. I think, I can't say which one I enjoyed more, Ariadne or Elektra, because I feel like they're different. Elektra was much more darker. I didn't feel as hopeful as I felt when I finished reading Ariadne. This was much more just encapsulating how terrible just everyone was, especially the men in charge. Yeah, it was fantastic. But more so onto kind of what I loved about this. So Elektra, the actual character, is very unlikable. She is a woman unable to really perceive the world from any other like perspective other than herself. She really refuses to empathize. She really idolizes her father Agamemnon to an almost perverted degree. It got a bit weird, not gonna lie. And it was very interesting to see and to read and to watch her descent into essentially the curse of the family. It was just very interesting. She was a very interesting character. You kind of like showed an almost indoctrination aspect, because she idolized her father so much. She refused to really believe in anything else, and it was very at times hypocritical. It was very, very strange. Elektra almost becomes complicit in the system that like essentially oppresses her and oppresses women. And obviously Elektra is in a very different position as a lot of the women in like ancient society, but she not only becomes complicit, she eventually is someone who is perpetuating this system. It was very, very fascinating. But similar to Ariadne, obviously there is a very much common themes across both books. It's not only about the collective experience of women and womanhood in ancient times in like these types of stories, but it was much more highlighted in Ariadne. But it's this idea that whatever really happens, it's women who get punished for the crimes of men. So even though Elektra is seriously a kind of a really unlikable character throughout this entire thing, at the end you're like left reeling a little bit, because how her story ends, you're there like, but how is her axe any different to her brother's axe? Like her brother is the one who actually did the act of, murder, whereas Elektra was just there like cheering him on and was there wanting it to happen. I love Jennifer Saint's writing. I think it's very accessible in terms of mythological retellings. I just find her voice and the way that she constructs her story is just amazing. I love this. And at the moment, I hope it's in the final. I don't even know if it's in the final. Such a good book. Read it. If you don't, read it. Don't be scared. It is a bit more like violent. Is it though? It just feels a bit darker, maybe because Elektra is just a character you want to punch. You just want to throw her across the room. You just kind of want to be like, can you not see from your mother's perspective like what's happening? Like, open your eyes, babe. 5 stars. Loved it so much. Actually, like, for some reason waited so long to film this clip. I don't know why. I apologize. I don't really know what to say. Like, I didn't really talk much about The Last Graduate because The Last Graduate is not actually on the Goodreads list. It's The Golden Enclaves, but I read The Last Graduate in order to read The Golden Enclaves. Overall, this series is not good. To me personally. I feel like there's a lot of aspects of this series that I really, really like, and so I understand why people enjoy this, but it just wasn't for me. It really lacked in execution, and the writing in this is what brought it down, and the characters. In The Golden Enclaves, which is this one, which is the 3rd and final book in this series, thank the fucking Lord. It has the most interesting plot line though, because we're finally outside of the Scholomance. We're finally outside of school. It's the aftermath. It's what's going to happen with Al and the enclaves. Like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going to happen? So like that was what I really liked. I liked the fact that we were outside of the school, and I really liked that we were exploring the politics of the world a bit more, and the origins, and well, not origins, but like the foundations of the enclave. I think that was so fascinating, and I really wish The Last Graduate was like half graduation and then the other half building more in order to reach this, because the pacing in this series is such a huge issue. It is such a huge issue, and I don't know why. I really feel as though if this series was published like 5 years ago, it would be a different story. I think we would have eaten this up 5 years ago. It just feels dated, and I've said that 5 million times. But anyway, going back to the story, I'm gonna spoil it. Spoiler! At the end of The Last Graduate, Orion pushes Al out of the doors of the school and closes it behind her. He stays at the school. Okay, which is fine. It was a cliffhanger. I was like, like the last 50 or to 80 pages of The Last Graduate was so good. So we start off in the direct aftermath of that. Like, Al is out of the doors, essentially. The first 200 pages of this book was a week or a week and a half. 200 pages. Mind you, what does Al do? She just mourns with her mum in the yurt, and other than her attempt at grabbing Orion through like magical means and pulling him out of the school, she doesn't ever try to go back and save him because she thinks he's dead. And I say to that, Al, this is a man who is literally an abyss. He kills Mals, these magical beings who are evil. We don't know why they are. We don't know how they've been, well, we know how one of them created, but not the rest of them. We don't know where they come from. He kills them for fun because he can take their energy and essentially transform it into the good energy to make magic. And you think that he would have been dead. Cool. Interesting. Are you stupid? Seriously. I was sitting there reading, I'm just like, are you serious? Was she not present in the last 2 books? Does she not remember what happened? Because obviously Orion survived. I was really annoyed. And so in this week and a half, she does nothing, and then Liesl comes to fetch her because shit's happening with the London Enclave. I'm just saying, Liesl really deserved more as a character. This book had Liesl and Al together, like they were like friends with benefits, so to speak, because in the week and a half, okay, listen, in the week and a half, right, that Orion's gone, it sounded like, that's why it blew me, but why it took me by surprise when I found out the amount of time it was, because she made it sound as though it was months and months finished, like months and months ago. Her and Orion literally proclaimed their love for each other. And then Liesl comes in, who deserved so much more. Her character was so... And so her and Al fuck a few times. And it's just weirdly done. It's so... Like, if you've read The Last Graduate, I really liked Liesl. And I think there was tension between them. I think Liesl has more personality than Orion. She deserved to be endgame. At one point I was like, I hope Orion's dead, because Liesl and Al would be incredible. But no, she was just used, really. And it was just so strange. There was just nothing. It was like they're just using each other to kind of blow off steam, but also for Al to, you know, be grounded back to herself. And it's like, babe, it's been a week and a half. Get over yourself. Start doing shit. Like, I don't understand. Anyway, but Orion's alive and they go back and something's wrong with him, because of course something's wrong with him. Then the whole thing's happening with the enclaves, and the enclave stuff was interesting. I'll give it that. That I wish this was more of a focus in this series than the actual school, if that makes sense, because I found this so fascinating. It really, not really, but it delved a bit more into, like, Allie's like this dark sorceress kind of situation. She's not, by the way. Her and Orion are literally like the exact same, and Al pretends she isn't. She's exactly the same. She just pretends that she's all like emo queen. She's not. Can you tell I don't like this series? But in saying that, I think this is my favorite. Is it? Yeah, this is my favorite. I think this one was just better. It was better. The descriptions though went on forever. I feel like the author realized that we wanted a bit more kind of introspection rather than just description, but it just felt clunky, which is fine. I don't know. I do think this was better. I liked the politics of the world. I liked learning more about the foundations of the enclaves, then why the golden enclaves are different. I liked the ending, the reunion that Al has with her father's side of the family. There are aspects to this that I really, really fucking loved, and this I think would be my favorite book in this series. Would I ever reread this series? Absolutely the fuck not. Would I read anything by Naomi Novik in the future? It will depend on what it is, because Naomi Novik has incredible premises, but I don't know if her young adult books are for me. So that's my update with the Golden Enclaves. If this wins, I am never trusting you all ever again. Hi friends. So it's been like a week since I last spoke to you. And I wanted to give you an update because I did start reading another book for this. And this is an atrocious bun, but I started reading Babel by Kuang. I'm already like 76 pages in. Considering that it's quite dense, it's actually quite easy to read. It's very, like, you don't realize how much you've read, it's quite fast paced. My initial thoughts, incredible. So already we're getting that signature Kuang incredible writing, but you're also getting mystery and magic, but also starting to build on ideas of like being within an environment that is like, that has a very embedded culture of ignorance, but also just like white supremacist ideology that no one's really had to think about before. But then Robin and his friend Rami they're being confronted with it on like an everyday basis, and it's like this like confrontation within themselves of being like, well, we're here but we're not welcome to it. Like, we're not Oxford men, we're men who are at Oxford, because they're being treated so differently and so horribly because they're visibly like different to their white peers. It's a very dominated white kind of culture and place. So Robin is at Oxford, is just starting. There was already a scene that was very strange where he says that he like essentially meets his doppelganger. Looks like he's looking in the face of his twin, and they're stealing like silver blocks which are magic, and he just helps them go along and doesn't really think much of it because he felt like he had to, because this man looked exactly like him. But I really like Robin. I really like him. I really like being with him. Professor Lavelle is a piece of shit. He just took this boy from his home, and you're essentially trying to scrub him clean, which literally that's like the wording that was used in this. Like, you have to live in the English way, so you have to forget your life in Canton. But don't forget the language, because the language can be used, and it's really like that idea of colonialism and countries being used and people being used for the empire. I'm really loving it already. I don't really know what to expect, to be perfectly honest. I forgot that this was a fantasy when I started reading it, and then there's like bits of magic happen and I'm just like, wait, what? I forgot that that was going to happen. I completely was in the mindset of like a historical novel, but I'm enjoying it. I also would like to watch some interviews or read some interviews with the author, with Kuang. I'd like to know why she decided to have the main character be a man. I just think it'll be interesting. Maybe it's so to explore ideas of masculinity, but I'm only 70 pages in and I'm very excited to see what happens, because I really don't know what will happen, because I literally can't predict it. I don't know what the story is going to be, and I am not going to look up any blurbs or anything because I want to be surprised. I'm having a really good time. I'm so happy I'm reading this. I'm gonna go read now. It's 8 o'clock and I haven't read any books yet. I need to do that now. So I'll most likely update you when I finish Babel. I told you it was going to be a long one. If you're here, then like thank you so much for watching this entire thing. It's been really fun though, honestly. So I had a really good time. I read 12 books for this challenge, and I wanted to just quickly go over the star ratings that I had for them, because I do talk about it throughout the video, but I wanted to. Okay, so in this vlog, then I'll talk about the books that I read throughout last year. In this vlog, the books that I read, here are the ratings. So we have Fairy Tale by Stephen King. I gave 3.5 stars. Babel, I gave 5 stars, obviously. The Stardust Thief, I gave 3 stars. The Golden Enclaves, I actually gave 3 stars because there were aspects that I enjoyed. I just don't recommend that series. When Women Were Dragons, I gave 4.5 stars. Nettle and Bone, I gave 5 stars. And Elektra, I gave 5 stars. I love so many of these books on this list. So let's actually talk about quickly the books that I read prior to doing this vlog. So first, let's just do, because right here. So Legends and Lattes by Baldree. I read this last year. I gave this 5 stars. This is cozy fantasy at its best. It's about Viv, the hot orc, who just wants to open a coffee shop. She wants to put mercenary business behind her and just chill and relax and settle. And it's just low stakes. There's like a mystery, not really a mystery, but there's something going on that Viv it's easily dealt with. Things are easily dealt with, and it's just very chill, cozy, light. You can read this and not have to concentrate. And there is like a very side sapphic romance with this. I love this so much, and I can only highly recommend this, and I feel like so many people are surprised when they pick this up and read it because they love it so much. So this, 5 stars. And then I read last year The Atlas 6 by Olivie Blake. I think I've spoken about this, to be honest. I loved this. I gave this 4.5 stars. This really surprised me. I totally thought that this would be a book that would be overhyped, because book talk always seems to steer me wrong. But this actually was fantastic, very dense. I'm not going to try and explain to you what this is about because I still get kind of confused. Like, the world building is it's like not 100% the greatest, but it's fun, and all the characters are incredibly unlikable, and you have this magic system. There's a secret society for the Library of Alexandria. They're essentially these 6 people who are trying to become part of this secret society in order to gain access to the breadth of knowledge from the Library of Alexandria. And there's magic and shenanigans, and one of them at the end is going to die. We just don't know who. And it's a wild time. I just really love, this really surprised me. I just love them, and they're all really hot. So you know me. Fabulous. So we got that, and then what was the next one? Oh, of course, Hosab. I don't know how I gave this 4.5 stars when I read it, these don't have to be this fucking big. These don't need to be this big. Sarah J Maas, please, we don't need this, right? Because nothing really happened, but I enjoyed the ride. I really enjoy this world, and I was hoping we got more of it. We kind of do. I don't like Hunt. I think that's a controversial opinion. I don't like him. I just find him to be dull. I don't know. I feel like there's nothing there. Like, can you just like be interesting? I'm hoping that the third book, because of things that happened at the end of this, we get to see more of Hunt just growing into himself. And what's her name? Bryce. I knew it was a B word. And I hope Bryce also, things happen. I mean, the way it ended, I think that's where a lot of my love for this book comes from. It's like the last 100 to 200 pages, and that's really it. I don't know what else to say. It's not a 5-star read. It gets a bit too info dumpy for me and kind of clunky, but it's a really, like with Sarah J Maas, it's always a good time, kind of. Yeah, kind of. And then I read last year The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. You all know this was part of my best books of 2022. I've spoken about this book a lot, so I won't speak anymore, but this is just gorgeous. Again, cozy fantasy. It's very light. There's romance, found family, magic. What more could you want? I gave this one 5 stars. So now that we know that, we know all of my ratings, we know what's going on, how would I personally like rank this? So if we're just talking about my personal ranking, for me, is this gonna be my 100% fine? I think so. Okay, for me, this is really hard actually, but I'm sticking to it. Oh my god, wait, I forgot. Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I read Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Celine Tan. My copy is holding you up, so I can't take it out. I thought this was okay. I gave it 3.5 stars. I don't like the love triangle. I think the love triangle is one of the worst. Sorry. It's not even a love triangle, okay? We all know, like, the amount of page time that is given to the prince in comparison to the general, you know who's going to be endgame. Because, let's be honest, the prince, you see nothing of him, really. And their relationship almost feels very sibling-esque. And so when all of a sudden it turns romantic, it's literally like a split second. I was like, what the actual fuck? I thought one of the twists was actually going to be like they're somehow related, because that's how it felt. It felt very sibling family. I just thought that it was fine, but I enjoyed the world, so I gave it 3.5 stars. The main character was again fine. A lot of things happen like off page, and we don't get to actually see that happening, like her military career, for instance. I think that would have been so much more interesting if we got to focus on that a little bit. So okay, all the books that I've read are done. I've spoken about them. Let's talk about my final ranking. This is my personal ranking. Number 1, obviously, is going to be Babel by R.F. Kuang. I think I didn't actually finish talking about this book in this vlog. Let's just say that everything that I said, I stand by. This was brilliant and heartbreaking, and I didn't know what was coming. Just everything that happens in this, absolutely stunning. It took me longer to read, but that's not a testament to like the book. It was just me because I was tired. But it is quite dense, and it's very, for me, I found it quite emotionally intense. These characters are just, oh, Robin, Rami. That scene, bitch, you knew I was sobbing. But I loved this so much. I think this is worth all the hype, all the conversations surrounding it. This is absolutely brilliant, and you should read it. You should, like, honestly should read it. Don't read this though for the fantasy aspect, because the fantasy is a very small element. It is meant to act as like a vehicle for, I guess, like a way for us to more plainly see the impact, like the direct impact of colonization. It was just, it's kind of like what's that called? Something to be taken, I'm trying to say. So silver is a means to further use countries, to invade countries, to slaughter. It's just, this book, R.F. Kuang, she deserves so many awards for this. So this is my number 1. I loved this so much. Number 2, I think we all know, has to be Elektra by Jennifer Saint. I loved this. This was fucking amazing. 5 stars. But just the way that Jennifer Saint writes, the way that she constructs her stories, the way that she focuses on these women, it really is a feat. It's a feat in itself, and I am so excited for her next release. I'm also excited to read 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes, just like a side note. But yeah, this is my second book. Then my third book would be The Atlas 6 by Olivie Blake, because I loved it. The 4th place would be Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. I adore that book. I adore it, and I need my own copy, okay? And then my number 5 would be Nettle? Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is my personal top 5. But I think what book will win, and I feel like we all know, this is going to be the winner. This is going to be the winner of the Goodreads Awards. I don't know what the Goodreads award winner is. I've actually not seen it, but we're going to react together. I think this is going to win. If this doesn't win, I'd be very surprised. But my objective top 5, number 1 will be Sarah J. Maas, House of Sky and Breath, and then I think number 2 would be War of Two Queens by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I think just the audiences for these 2 books, because their sequels very, very high. Number 3, I also put The Atlas 6. I just think it would make sense. This book has gotten a lot of hype. I put Stephen King as number 4, but I don't know, because Stephen King always seems to win in the horror category, but I don't know how he would go in fantasy. And number 5, I put Babel. Okay, should we just see who won? I'm not going to screen record because I'm sorry, I can't be bothered. But I'm going to react. Okay, so I just clicked on the best books of 2022 on the Goodreads thing. So let's scroll down. So categories: fiction, mystery, fantasy, of course. Didn't I fucking say it's Hosab. Hosab won, and then it was Babel. I'm very happy actually that Babel got second. I put Babel in the 5 spot for like my objective top 10 because I was a bit scared, and I thought maybe Jennifer L. Armentrout might surpass that. Stephen King is number 3, Atlas 6 is number 4, and then it's War of Two Queens, and then Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I can't believe Legends and Lattes got 8th place. Where did Elektra go? Oh, there we go. Sarah J. Maas won, Babel came second. The fact that Babel came second, I'm very happy. I'm even happy about Sarah J. Maas, but let's be honest, I feel like there are other books on this list that were better written than Hosab. But okay, we did it. We did it. Wow. Thank you so much for being with me. It's been over an hour, maybe closer to 2. Thank you so much for being here. Check out my other videos if you would like. Subscribe also if you would like, and I'll see you next week for another video. I don't actually know which one. It's gonna be a surprise for both of us, to be honest. Have a good time, friends. Bye.